everybody, today I'm going to show you how to create your wow proposal for movement. Please start by writing your name at the top of the paper. You are going to be using line quality, repetition, or an action pose to demonstrate movement. I wanted to quickly review the 3 ways that you can show movement. The first way is through line quality, some really gestural lines to show the movement in the runner and the drummer right here. And the next one, some action poses. It almost looks like the artist took a picture of these figures in motion in these dynamic poses in order to capture them. This one is action pose. And the last one is repetition. So repeating the same thing in a similar way to, again, make it look like that movement is happening. And this one's interesting because it's the same action pose, but it's repeated 3 times, so it's coming off of the paper. Your first mission is to create 3 really kind of rough thumbnail sketches that demonstrate your understanding of movement. Now you need to choose 1 or even 2 of the 3 ways to show movement and circle them at the bottom. So this first one, you can tell I'm just making a figure kind of moving across the page, and you can see that I'm actually using a combination of techniques. I'm using repetition because it's repeating the same person who's changing poses, and also action pose. The next one, I thought it might be a fun idea to play with the line quality and to make really kind of rough, scratchy lines to make it feel like the dancer was spinning around really, really fast. As you can see, I'm making her little skirt right there. And I was thinking about the ways that ballet dancers move their bodies when they are spinning around and how I can get that across to the viewer that it looks like she's spinning. And in the spirit of having all 3 ideas be completely different, I thought, what about a fish? And I was imagining a fish jumping up out of the water and then diving right back down into the water. How could I show that? So here I am, just making the fish appear bigger and bigger as it goes back into the water, just playing around with that idea. And oops, I realized I forgot to circle what techniques I use. So for the first one, you can see that little friend is repeating and also using an action pose. For the ballerina, I use line quality and also an action pose. And for my fish, I use repetition and a fishy action pose. Okay, now it's your turn to complete section 1. Don't worry about making the sketches perfect. At this point, you're just getting your ideas down on paper. Okay, great job on step 1. So now you have 3 completely different sketches from step 1. And now what you're going to do is to choose your favorite sketch and circle it. Make sure that you have the technique that you were using circled at the bottom of each sketch. Pause this video, figure out which sketch you want to develop into a final project, and circle it. Welcome to step 3. Step 3 is getting some advice from a friend, from a peer, about how to develop your idea to make it even better. Here's how to do it. Okay, so the name of my peer reviewer is Lucia, and she is going to go ahead and write her name right there. And as she gives me suggestions on my work, she's going to check them off. So the first one, tell the artist something you like. So she's going to have a look at this right here. And what she really likes is the whole idea of showing the fish jumping a little bit. She thinks that that's a really interesting idea. So she just told me something that she likes about it. She's going to check that off right there like that. Now, one question that she asked me is, how am I going to make it look like the fish is actually in the water? Because right now it looks kind of strange. It should be underneath the water, but it's actually not. So that is her question. She's going to check it off when she asks the question. And then she's going to give me one suggestion. And the suggestion that she gave me is she thought it might be a little bit more interesting if the fish, instead of all staying within the picture frame right here, if the fish actually comes out of the picture frame so you can't see it anymore, and then comes back in, and that might really give it the appearance of movement a little bit more than it already has. So She has told me something that she likes. She asked a question, and then she also gave a suggestion. Your turn. Step 3, find a peer reviewer and have your peer reviewer tell something you like, ask a question, and give a suggestion. Now it is your turn. Please find a friend and get them to complete step 3 with you. Okay, here we go. So Lucia advised me to see what would happen if the fish actually looked like it was coming out of the picture. So check it out. I'm just going to draw part of the fish once it's like jumping out of the picture frame and then coming back in. That might look more interesting. So that was Lucia's idea that I'm incorporating into my new draft. I had another idea. I thought it would be kind of interesting to show the fish actually underneath the water and maybe use watercolor underneath there to make it look a bit hazy. To make it look like the fish was underneath there. I thought that might be cool. So I'm incorporating her idea, her change, and also my change into this latest draft. Now it's your turn. Pause this video and create your second draft. Keep in mind that if you don't love the suggestion that one of your friends gives you to improve your work, ask another friend for their suggestion. And if you're still a bit stuck, just come and talk to me and we will work it out together. Welcome back. So you just completed step number 4. You've got a beautiful sketch right there in 4. And now is time to choose your media. Step 5 right here. To start out, you can pick 1 or 2. All right. So take a really hard look at your drawing and think about what media might look best. And this is a part where you really have to use your imagination. So I'm imagining right now, I'm not actually cutting up my technique sheet, but I'm imagining what would it look like if I use a gradiated wash in the sky? What would it look like if I do a color drop underneath the water? So artists envision to make a plan. And I want to do some cool little details on top of the fish. So I'm going to choose colored pencil because I feel like colored pencil might be better suited to the job for my little fishy. And once again, artists envision. So what I want you to do is to try to envision in your head what it is going to look like if you choose that media. Okay, so what I want you to do is to imagine what it will look like and then circle 1 or 2 media in step 5 when I tell you to pause. One thing to keep in mind is you do need to have completed a technique sheet in order to choose a media. So for example, if you really want to do chalk pastel but you haven't done the technique sheet yet, you do need to do that technique sheet before you start on your final project. Hey, here we go. Take a look at your second draft, and you need to choose 2 media that you would like to use for your final project. Okay, here we go. For this part, you're going to need to take a look inside your sketchbook because you need to write down which techniques you are going to use. So for example, I chose colored pencil. So I'm going to look at the colored pencil technique sheet from my sketchbook. I'm going to choose 1 or 2 techniques that I think might be interesting to use on the fish. Then I'm going to write that down in number 6. Now I'm going to take a look at the watercolor technique sheet from my sketchbook, and I'm going to choose a technique or 2 that I am going to want to use for my background, and I'll write that down as well. So as you can see, I chose 2 watercolor techniques, wet on wet and color drop, and 1 colored pencil technique. All right, now it is your turn. Please pause this video, take out your sketchbook, and look at your technique sheets for the media that you chose, and write them down in step 6. All right, so step 7 is all about what paper you choose to use. You need to pick a size, A4, A3, or A2. Or if you want a different size, just let me know and we'll chat about it. What kind of paper do you want? Drawing paper or painting paper? If you did watercolor or any other kind of paint, you absolutely need painting paper. It's thicker and it'll hold the paint. Then step 3 is to write whatever color you want down, and step 4 is do you want landscape, portrait, square, or something else? Pause this video and choose your paper. Okay, so now's the time where you have to think about, what do I need to do to make this project happen? For me specifically, I'm thinking about my fish. I don't want my fish to look really unrealistic and cartoony. So I want to find a bunch of fish pictures online that I can use for inspiration when I draw my fish. So I'm going to make a little triangle circle fish with a line through it just to remind me that I don't want my fish to look like that. Step 2, this is where, if you haven't completed a technique sheet, this is where you would write that down. So complete technique sheet for watercolors or colored pencils or whatever you decided to use, but you haven't done the proper techniques quite yet. For me, my step 2 is going to be get that paper and sketch really, really lightly on my final draft paper. So step 3 for me is I realize I haven't even thought about what colors I want to use. So what I'm going to do is, once I finish my sketch on my final paper, I'm going to take a picture of it with my iPad and use ArtSet Pro to play with different colors to figure out what kind of color scheme I want to have. Okay, it's your turn. Complete step 8. Pause this video and write what your next steps are going to be. Okay, fantastic. The last thing is to please just look over the sheet, make sure that it's all completed and it's very clear, and then raise your hand and I'll come over to you and have a little chat with you about your proposal. And then once I sign it, you are good to go and you are good to start doing whatever it says on your next steps in that section 8. All right, good luck.